I'm very curious to know a little bit more about the journey of the company, how things began at the helm of financial services, and then you completely deviated and plunged into the world of beauty, which has been such a success story.
Thank you, Avanne. As you are aware, I was itching to be an entrepreneur, and I had this deadline in my mind that before I turn 50, I must experience entrepreneurship and commit my next decade to entrepreneurship. And I'm so glad I did. So with that in mind, I was convinced that the multi-brand retailer for beauty was an industry that was not built out well in India, and that was a space available. And usually nascent businesses are hard to handle in a diverse country like India. And that's where the digital came in. I think that was the time, early 2000, I'd seen, customers gravitating towards digital. And I thought that digital was a good way to educate the customer. And also in later years, e-commerce picked up. So, servicing the customers throughout the country through a digital platform that, that satisfies all their beauty needs is what I went out to build. And we are so glad we did that, because today we were sure that there was a need. I used to joke about it that if I'm performing a ballet, God, let it be at least Mumbai and not Timbuktu. And I'm so happy that the Indian customers were ready to embrace beauty. And as we did more towards the industry, we saw the market grow many fold. So just happy to be where we are today, having helped build an industry that women are so fond of.
Oh yes, indeed. It's everyone's go-to platform for beauty. And Falguni, I can't help but ask, the pandemic has definitely impacted a lot of businesses across various spheres. How badly was the beauty industry impacted? Because there was a serious disruption when it came to the supply side. Malls, shopping complexes, all of them were closed. Deliveries as well were few and far between with essential items. How was it for the beauty industry?
So when the lockdown first came into play, we were really quite worried. It was towards the end of March, and things started locking down. People started working from home. We had also got set up to work from home. But at the first thought of like zero revenue, it was almost scary, because we'd been growing on a steady growth path for 8 years, where we were initially growing more than 100% year on year, and even in more recent years, our growth has been very steady at about 50-60% year on year growth. So with that kind of growth momentum, suddenly to face the reality of a lockdown was hard. But I think we did some interesting things. We used personalization and pivoted our store to what we call an essential only store. And even I want to credit the government that they wanted the supply chain to keep moving, and they kept doing things during early lockdown to allow the supply chain, operational throughout the country. So with that, I think in April itself, we were at what we call as 35% of business as usual. We call the Feb number as business as usual, because that was the last, full month that we had available to benchmark. And by May, we were at like 65% of business as usual, and by June, almost 97% of business as usual on an omni-channel basis. And as far as the stores and malls, like they were a little late to start operating. However, we are really happy that by October, even our cost is the retail footfall and stores in the sales in the store, and even those are back to more than February levels. So we've seen a huge momentum. I think the nature of demand shifted initially to more to skincare and personal care, but in more recent time, even makeup is back. So I think we've seen that beauty is something that Indian consumer is quite. I think whatever we've done in the country, the demand is quite robust in every industry. I hear that the demand is quite robust at the moment. So be it beauty, be it fashion. I even hear about some of the other industries, like automobile and cement. I think the demand is coming back. So we're just all very happy to be surprised by how much resistance our economy has shown, resilience economy has shown.
Now, Falguni, while retailing global brands as well as very prominent Indian brands, Nykaa has gone ahead and built its own label brands as well. There's Nykaa Cosmetics, Nykaa Naturals, K Beauty. What is the thinking behind this strategy, and how have some of the brands within the company fared?
So I think in a digital world, we are very close to our consumers. We are very close to a lot of data and information. And we also, based on our knowledge of the industry, we saw many gaps in the market that were not very well filled through availability of a lot of brands, So I think initial thought of private label came in to want to fill those gaps. We launched nail colors because the availability of nail colors in the country was pathetic in 2012, 2013, in those early days. And so I think after that we went into this whole bath and body range of products, and then now of course we have full-fledged range of cosmetics, which is really high quality cosmetics at a very affordable price, but it meets the requirement of Indian women. If you look at our foundation, the number of shades are massive. Or same thing with lipstick, we give so much variety to our consumers, create a brand that is for every consumer in the country.
Oh, yes, indeed it is. A number of very prominent brands as well. Falguni, yeah, I'm curious to understand the strategy behind the omni-channel presence that the company has. Do you think that that's been viable during a time such as a pandemic and a crisis? And will you now look at a more digital transformation, or do you think that this omni-channel strategy has stood you in good stead and that you'd continue?
So we've been a digital first company, and we began with digital and went into physical retail because we did believe that our consumers wanted to experience in an omni-channel way. I think we manage our costs very well during pandemic, and that is in spite of not letting go of a single staff, not even in our stores. So we actually, in the initial lockdown phase, we supported our physical retail store staff with a lot of education and training. And then soon after, when the malls were not open, but e-commerce was working, we actually enabled our stores to be enabled through hyperlocal deliveries. And we use our store inventory and store staff to deliver to consumers closer to home, because in the early days, supply chain was harder. And I think since then now, there are a lot of footfalls in the malls, and our stores have seen pretty good, customer engagement levels. And I think we negotiated, during the lockdown, we negotiated our rentals in such a way that, to our surprise, at the store level, profitability was intact even during early days of September, October. And I think Nykaa has, of course, in physical retail, the costs are higher, and to that extent, we are yet to achieve full break even of the business, but we are very close to that. So I think we do believe that it was the right strategy. The mix needs to be correct, and we will continue to do that in the future.
So what happens to expansion plans now? Do you remain on track? And I think everyone's very curious to know as well, what are the plans when it comes for the public listing of the company? Are they on track? What's the timeline that you're looking at?
Yeah, so we've had a great year in spite of COVID this year. Our growth momentum continues, our profitability improvement and momentum continues. I think our profitability will grow multifold because of the scale advantage that we are achieving, and because of all that, we remain on our plans as usual for IPO. At some point in future, we will go for a public listing, and we are getting more ready for that. And I think in terms of the business, we have, like I already talked about, we have three big businesses, which is beauty, fashion, and Nykaa Men, which is our men's offering. And within that itself, we are building additional brands. And then from there are other categories that interest us. And we are going to focus on some more of those categories, like wellness. We may have a more deeper offering within wellness and a couple of other categories.